gonna come my way, searching for clues that I hope to find. Want something that's gonna last. I wanna live and forget the past. I know there's change gonna do me good. I know there's change gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change will do me good. You gotta come to let me know. Don't hold back now. Give me a ride. I get your dreams, you know you should. I know this change is gonna do me good. I know this change is gonna do me good. Even though it hurts me now, I know this change will do me changes in the story. I'm feeling better to be. I wanna run back and all the lyrics on me. I wanna I know things will come even though it hurts me I know this change will be
Aloha. Good evening. This is Angiola live at, what the heck? It's changed the scenery on me again. What the heck's going on? Out of Tucson, Arizona, with Spiritual Illness Productions on Blog Talk Radio and FreeConferencing.com and Ustream, establishing and maintaining relationships during human life. Aloha and welcome to tonight's Angiola Live. Tonight we're talking with Ben Moss and Tony Angiola in the Socorro Lonnie Zamora incident, evidence of a non-human event. Aloha, Ben and Tony. How are y'all?
Great. How you doing?
Yeah, and is it past your bedtime yet?
It's always our bedtime.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, Ben Moss is MUFON's chief field investigator in Virginia and a member of the Rapid Deployment STAR Team, Strike Team Area Research. He is a guest expert on the History Channel's Hangar 1 TV show and has written numerous articles for the MUFON Journal and various online websites. He has appeared on Paranormal TV, Podcast UFO, and the Paracast radio show. Ben has been with MUFON since the early 1990s. Tony Angiola, on the other hand, has been studying UFOs since the early 1990s. He became an investigator in 1999 while living in Northern Virginia. As a computer network administrator by profession, as an assistant state director and STAR team member, Tony works close with other experts in the field to gain further knowledge on using current technology to further the field of ufology in a scientific way. Tony is also an avid scuba diver and hopes to discover some kind of trace evidence left behind from anomalous craft seen underwater. Tony is also a public speaker and appears as an expert on season 2 of Hangar 1 that airs on the History Channel as well. Since January of 2015, Ben and Tony have been working with Ray Stanford and Chris O'Brien on releasing newfound photographic evidence from the 1964 Socorro landing that was witnessed by Officer Lonnie Zamora. Is that correct? He's an officer. Is that correct?
No, he was. He passed away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. When did he pass away? Anyhow.
I'm sorry?
When did he pass away?
That was in 2009.
Oh, so it's been a few years.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyhow, Officer Lonnie Zamora, and seen by many others that day, with the help of researchers like James Fox and Rob Mercer, Ben and Tony have been piecing together new evidence from Project Blue Book in the National Archives before seeing about this case. Ben and Tony have spent hundreds of hours discussing this case in person with Ray, a friend of the late Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book's UFO expert. Ray revealed new and revolutionary evidence regarding the case to us, and it still possesses material gathered from the site, including the rock broken under one of the craft's landing struts, which is still under study. For more information on Ben Moss and Tony Angiola, you can go to www.mufonda.com, and that's MUFONDA.com. So, and we're going to talk to Tony and Ben here in a couple minutes. First of all, what I want to do is give a big aloha to all of our underwriters to help make this show happen from week to week, month to month, year to year, beginning with Maha Dikini Lore at www.mahadikini.com. Maha Dikini Lore's life has been a personal journey exploring sexuality and spirituality for over 20 years. She's a certified tantric counselor and tantric healer and a certified mind and sound teacher. Maha Dikini Lore is also a graduate of Margot Non's year-long Sky Dancing Tantra Facility Training Program. She is a current member of the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists Club, as well as a charter member of the Association of Sexual Energy Professionals. She regularly attends trainings and conferences to keep current with the latest research and information on sexual education. And then we also have the 90-Day Ascension Journey at www.90dayascensionjourney.com. When you sign up for the 90-Day Ascension Journey, you will be facilitated with defining and redefining your soul true life purpose. You will be assisted with finding out what Ascension means to you. On this journey, you will be provided with tools, techniques, and assistance to empower you to connect and reconnect with yourself, your emotions and beings, in your mind, body, and spirit. Through a universal soul-centered process, you will be going through a lifelong transformation that allows you to move forward with your endeavors and never look back if you dare. And for those of you that are interested, you can go to www.90dayascensionjourney.com. You also spiritualimageproductions.com. On the front there's a GIF of the book. You click on that. That'll give you some more information on the book. You can read the introduction and the first chapter. I wrote this book several months ago with the intentions of supplementing the journey, which is a mentoring program that lasts 12 months. 12 weeks. And so if you're interested in that, of course, you can always contact me through my website, email, call me or whatever, or text me as well. Yeah. Thank you, Ben and Tony, for being here. So first of all, what I think I want to do is just to get started. Just people may not know who you guys are. So whoever wants to start first, if you can just give us an overview of a bio of who Tony is, of who Ben is, and then go from there. How's that?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I can go first. Like you mentioned earlier, I do IT work for a living, mostly doing security IT now, and working on some hacking and things like this, and hoping to get into more cyber warfare type stuff. But for a long time, for the past 20 years, working with MUFON and doing investigations, and working with Ben for the past few years, we came across Ray Stanford, who just happened to live in our backyard, so to speak, about 40 minutes away. The reason Ray came into our lives is because we were at the symposium, MUFON symposium in Cherry Hill in 2015, was it that? Yeah.
Oh, so that,
2015, and we learned about this movie that James Fox was making called 701. Ben was predicting what was going to come next in the preview, which he suspected was going to be some old footage from the Lonnie Zamora case that he remembered seeing when he was much younger, watching the TV show Sightings. And when that clip was not shown, we decided to talk to James Fox after the event, and he was not aware of this footage. So kind of set us off into this adventure of trying to find this footage, and what Ben recalled at the time was seeing smoldering bushes, embers, if you will, live footage from like a 16 millimeter or 8 millimeter footage in black and white. So this kind of took us a few months, and we checked everywhere. Ben was calling every studio he could get a hold of. We were calling out to all of our friends who might have it. It just so happened that John Ventry out of Pennsylvania, the state director of Pennsylvania for MUFON, had a copy in VHS format, and he promptly sent it to us. And it was the footage that Ben was thinking about. However, what was seen, kind of like when your mind kind of plays phone tree with you. Sometimes you kind of fabricate sometimes what you think you see. And upon watching the film, it wasn't exactly what he thought it was, but it was the footage. It wasn't exactly smoldering bushes and embers, but it was a video by Elizabeth Russell, whose father photographed the scene when she was very little. They were passing through town, and I guess they ran into Lonnie Zamora or one of the officers, but they ended up at ground zero of the site along with many other people. They were kind of trampling the scene. And it's really good footage just to see some original footage from the day and crowds of people that were there. It also kind of reinforces the fact that so many people were at the site trampling all over the
now, Tony, you're cutting out for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but what I want to do is I want to take a step back even further, even deeper, because I want to get to know who Tony is. Now, where were you raised? Where were you raised? Where did you grow up at? And did you see any flying saucers or paranormal activity, ghosts, or anything like that when you were growing up?
Yeah, there's been some really weird things that have happened in my life. I was born in Puerto Rico until the age of 4. Then my family moved to Southern California, Anaheim, Orange County, and I was there till about the age of 8 or 9. And then we moved to Virginia because my father was transferred to the Pentagon. And there have been some strange things along the way that really cannot seem to explain, but I can't really say what they are because I don't really know what they are. I feel like I was too young to really understand, what it could have been. But as far as ghosts go, we recently did, I have a house in Pennsylvania that we did a paranormal investigation on with Richmond Investigators of Paranormal. Ben, it was me, Ben, and Rip's team up there. We spent the weekend, and Wilbur Allen was there. And we had some interesting experiences there with lots of equipment was set out, infrared detectors. I'll let Ben talk about what he experienced with EVP, which was kind of freaky.
Got it. So
Wilbur actually photographed or videotaped some interesting UFOs above my house.
So now you're saying you picked up your equipment picked up ghosts or UFOs or both, or what are you talking about?
Wilbur's equipment videotaped 2 UFOs above my house that were moving pretty quickly. It looks like 2 points of light moving quickly across the sky, coming close together and then further apart and close together, further apart, and then it leaves the last frame.
Huh.
Ben experienced some EVP phenomena on his recorder. I don't know if you want to jump in and talk about that real quick.
Well, before we do that, we go to Ben. I want to finish up with you and then go to him. But so and when you were growing up, you are you saying that it's a probability that you witnessed some UFOs or aliens or both or other something else. What are we talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like stories, but it's not something that I recall. Stories that were told me by my mother, for example. And again, I really don't know what it was, but she claims I was lifted out of my crib, levitated out, if you will. And I don't know. So we don't know what it was about. I can't say for sure. These are stories that were told me. We almost got in a major accident driving from California to Virginia, and my mother thought that they were, angels or spirits. All I know is that there was like this bright light that stopped the car from going off a bridge, kind of thing, and pulling another car behind us. Then some policeman shows up only minutes after it happens and put chains on her tires. So I don't know.
Wow.
Some weird things like that.
Okay.
Some strange things in the sky. Can't tell what they were. Some strange lights, but we don't know what they are.
Okay, I hear you.
So there's nothing definitive.
Okay, so there was you weren't able to define or put a finger on what was actually going on. So now what did your dad and what did your mom do?
They're retired now. He used to work for DOD and she worked for Social Security.
Oh, really? Okay. So, and that's interesting that you and your whole family had these experiences together when you were growing up, not just you or her or whatever. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so and I want to go into depth with the Socorro incident, but again, I want to get to know you guys and so is that what prompted you into joining MUFON, or how did you end up joining MUFON?
Excuse me. I got into reading UFO books coming out of high school, and it's one of those things in the back of your mind that you always, feel like there's something more out there, that this can't be it. It's funny because when the Matrix came out, I identified with it so much. I felt like I could have written that movie. Of course, I would have used more guns, but but the concept that we live in this matrix or a hologram, if you will, the fact that we cannot seem to leave this planet too easily, we're held back by so many different,
variables,
lack of technology, possibly, or the fact that maybe we're sworn off from visiting the moon or any other planets for some strange reason. There's too many strange anomalies that we cannot explain. From the hollow moon theory to the hollow Phobos moon of Jupiter to a hollow Earth theory. There's just so many things out there that we keep stumbling upon. Strange phenomena in the skies, reported, alien abductions, just all kinds of, X-File related type, cases and, thousands and thousands of witnesses. And to me, that is something that needs to be, researched and investigated, because at the same time, to me, the most important question that anybody can ask themselves as far as the existence that we have here on this planet is there's got to be more. There's got to be more to waking up every day, going to a job, paying our bills, taking a vacation to make ourselves feel somewhat happy, trying to exercise, work out, and eat healthy for what? To work some more, pay more bills, pay more taxes. It just seems crazy to me. I feel like there's more to life. There's more out there, and we need to do everything that we can to get away from our jobs as much as possible to focus on the investigations. If we could do this full time, we surely would. However, this matrix that we live in requires us to pay bills and everything else.
Yeah, the mundane. I said, the mundane. Is that what you're talking about? The 3D stuff.
Right.
So I hear you. So even after you had the experiences, so I guess you don't really remember the experiences when you were growing up, and so that wasn't enough to prompt you about the UFO stuff, and then you read this book, and then further down the road, I don't know, were you in high school when you joined MUFON, or you were already out of high school?
I was out of high school already. I was about, it was back in 96, so that would have maybe about 26.
So you were already out of college as well, and you're living in Virginia, and then that you just happened to come across MUFON, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I joined MUFON. I think I saw it either it was on a newsstand or something, or someone turned me on to it. I can't exactly remember, but I signed up with the MUFON Journal, started reading those articles, and then I realized that, it'd be kind of neat to get involved with, to start doing some research. So, bought the manual and, got involved that way as an investigator. But life got in the way, got married, had kids, and I kind of had to put it on the back burner for a very long time.
Oh,
Until I ran into Ben at a networking event for business, and I always seem to get in conversations that lead me to bring the topic of UFOs up. So as I'm talking to Ben and I brought up UFOs, I remember his eyes kind of bugged out of his head, and the first thing he said, "Well, I'm the chief investigator for Virginia's MUFON." It was an exciting day because I was able to give him business, and I was able to make a connection there with MUFON again. And from that point forward, we started doing investigations together.
got it. And that's what I was trying to figure out, the connection between you two. So Ben, go ahead, pick up from there, backtrack and give us your bio, and then go from there. So whenever you're ready. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Went to the University of Richmond, studied psychology. Always was interested in UFOs from a kid when I watched Walter Cronkite special on TV, and I was a big comic book collector too, so I'd go in and scoop up all the UFO magazines in the comic book store. And then Star Trek was a big influence that got me even further interested because of watching all these cool stories about aliens on Star Trek that were written by some of the great science fiction writers you work on. So that's what got me interested, and then can't remember how I got a hold of MUFON, but I remember when I helped run the security at the 99 Symposium in Crystal City, and met a lot of people there. That was back in the days when it's funny how every 10 to 15 years there's a whole new set of names and people that are popular in the field, but if you go back 20 years or so, a lot of those people don't even hear from them anymore. So it's an interesting field. I guess there are a lot more people that research and stay with it, and people that just do the work and don't want to be out in the limelight. Know a lot of people like that, but it's kind of interesting because it makes the world a much more interesting place to uncover things that you can't figure out, that are kind of a puzzle and don't seem to be of the natural world. There seems to be something outside of it. So always been interested in that, and then I got a MUFON in the 90s and started taking cases, and then after a bunch of cases, our director, Chief SuNite, made me chief field investigator, and then I ran into Tony a couple of years ago, and we kind of got Virginia back on the map from not having a good percentage of closed cases to almost being at 100%. So anyway, it's just been a process from there, and we started tackling the Socorro case just because of the Cherry Hill Symposium where we met James Fox, which is actually 2014. Because after we were there and ran to the producer for Angiola, that's how we got connected to that show and got on the TV show through a string of luck and multiple auditions. So it's been interesting, we were trying to find out what the truth is and not, it's nice to be on shows and stuff, but, it's more about how do we get, some of the truth out and how do we fund it, because it's all right now.
So now let me ask you this: growing up, the same thing. Did you have any major paranormal experiences? UFOs, aliens, ghosts, things, healings. I mean, what was it like growing up with you? And what did your parents do as well?
My dad was a doctor. My mom was a registered nurse, so medical background. I always was scared to death of watching monster movies and shows, but I'd take a peek anyway, and then it'd scare me even further. So I was scared of the dark. I was a real wolf. You know, I couldn't go into the room with the lights were out. I'd scream and run out.
So you
not the most manly reaction.
No, it's not about manliness. It sounds to me like you actually are very sensitive to energies, and you actually pick up on ghosts and things like that. And maybe you don't know it yet, or maybe you do, but it sounds to me like you're very sensitive to that type of thing, and that was just that's a typical reaction, typical behavior for people like that. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, I think we all like to be scared, and you know, I always was into monsters.
I don't like to be scared.
I was always into, the whole monster thing, and then, when the Alien movies came out, and all the classics of Day the Earth Stood Still, Earth versus Flying Saucers, no matter when you see movies like that, it brings back a little bit of nostalgia and the history of, if you do your homework on UFOs, there's a really rich history in the world and in the United States and during the wars for aerial phenomena that to this day hasn't been explained. So when we took on the Socorro case for 64, that's one of the classic, most evidential close encounters of their kind in American history. So that's a famous case. It's still on the books as an unknown. So when we took it on, we started getting all kinds of new data points and information, and everybody seems to be interested in that case because besides Roswell and a few others, it's one of the most important cases simply because of the evidence that was there and the fact that nobody could figure out what it was.
Got it. And I want to talk about the case, but I want to. So did you experience any paranormal stuff growing up at all, or any UFOs or anything like that?
I saw a couple of shooting stars when they took right angles. I know they weren't shooting stars, and I saw kind of a couple of purple plasma balls during a thunderstorm on these purple tracks, but still not convinced that wasn't some kind of exotic ball lightning.
And that was as a kid, or high school, or college, or afterwards?
College.
Oh, got it. And so the shooting stars you experienced during college, and also the plasma and
when shooting stars were later. I was in Key West, and just looking up at the night sky, and saw like a shooting star. If you blink, you would have missed it. But instead of shooting across the sky, one after the other stopped and then made a right angle turn.
Oh, interesting. And you were already in MUFON at the time, or you weren't?
Huh?
You were already involved with MUFON at the time, or you weren't?
Yeah, I'd been going to meetings and things then. That was in the 90s.
Got it. Okay, got it. I hear you. So, and then you started the investigations with the Socorro Lonnie Zamora event. So let's go like this. Let's play a little bit of music, take a little breather, and then I want to dwell into the Socorro. I want you guys to lay down the foundation for that, and because you guys have told me that you found some new evidence, and there's a continuing evidence that keeps being found for this, and so we'll go over that. I want to go over that and just kind of get lay it out so people can understand what it is that you guys are talking about and so forth and from there. Are you guys good with that?
Sure.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a song called "Spring" by Daniel Paul, and for those of you that are watching this on Ustream or maybe YouTube, I guess. I'm putting up a cover of the cover of the album by Daniel Paul. It's called Ragas of the Four Seasons, and so we're gonna send out love, blessings, healings, angels of light, love to all those field investigators out there, MUFON field investigators, and all the family and friends, to you guys, of course, and your family and friends. And of course, me and my family and friends, to all our vehicles and places of residence that take care of us, to the President of the United States, to all the kids and the animals and the plants on the planet, especially the ones in need concern. Anybody you guys want to add to that?
I think you covered it now.
Yeah, okay. Tony?
You're good.
Okay, so everyone else in need and concern, we will be back. Spring by Daniel Paul, and again, from his album Ragas of the Four Seasons. And we'll come back and talk about this core event as well. Thanks. And we're back. This is Angiola live out of Tucson, Arizona, here at the Quality Inn with Ben Moss and Tony Angiola in the Socorro Lonnie Zamora incident, evidence of a non-human event. We have, and I apologize about the music. It's meant to be meditational. Actually, several people use it for doing massages and stuff like that. And so I thought we'd go ahead and bring it on and see how it worked, but it seems a little bit slow. But that's that. But anyhow, We're here with Blog Talk Radio and Spiritual Productions on Ustream, on Blog Talk Radio, and free conferencing, establishing and maintaining right relationships with you guys. We've been talking with Tony and Ben. Both are coming out of well-to-do families and both involved with MUFON in the 1990s. And we're both now. Tony has had experiences growing up that he doesn't actually remember, but in a sense of speaking. But as you've gotten older, you had some experiences that that did convince you more so that UFOs and aliens are real. Is it safe to say that, Tony?
Nothing really personal, actually. I mean, just just some investigations and things that we've researched. I mean, we have photographed some interesting things when we were in Arizona. We're not quite sure what they are. We just, we need better equipment and, sharper photographs, more daylight photographs, and it's kind of challenging when you just, you're working with just what you have and you just do the best you can with it. But,
got it.
For me, yeah, it's more or less, from what I've read, what I've researched.
You've actually not had anything experiential personally that you remember that made you indicate that there's something going on, paranormal going on. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, there's no definitive event in my life that I could clearly say was extraterrestrial or truly paranormal.
Got it. But both of you did some kind of ghost thing at your house, and although you didn't really actually again see anything definitive, you had the instruments that you had there were pointing towards something going on. Is that what I heard you saying?
Yeah, there's that, right? And I mean, Ben had more of a personal experience than I did. I've listened to strange things in the house, but again, those things could be explained. My kids have told me about some strange stories, and so did my ex, but those are not my personal experiences.
So Ben, what did you pick up at this place, at this location?
Well, there were three things that happened. Seemed to be centered around me for some reason. This was my first ever attempt at a ghost investigation, but when I was on the third floor of this 10,000 square foot place by myself, recording in the dark, I got the most unusual feeling of being watched. And I'm not scared easily, despite what I said about watching horror movies when I was a kid. But when I was up there and had this feeling, later when we played back that tape, that EVP tape, it was like somebody walked up to my ear and whispered my name, Ben, right into my ear. So that showed up on the recording.
Wow.
And then the Oculus they had, which didn't have Ben in the vocabulary, came back with Ben friend on it when they were trying to talk to the energy. And then the third thing, which was the weirdest to me, was we were all outside in some chairs and just like 4 a.m. we're just trying to wind down, and behind me was just a wall in front of the house, and somebody said my voice really loud and kind of a more gruffy voice from behind all of us. But 7 people, I think, were there, and we all heard it. You heard it, Tony, didn't you?
I was inside at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Norm was there, Wilbur, I think, KP was there. But it was really weird. It was like that, and it came from behind me, up in the air a little bit. We were sitting down, let's say maybe 8 feet in the air. But there was nobody there. It was the front of the house, and the windows were closed. Nobody was upstairs. So that was interesting.
So everybody heard this entity called you out, called Ben, and really loud, and yeah, everybody was agreed that they all experienced the same thing.
Yeah, they all heard the EVP, which is clear.
Got it.
And the Oculus was something that came up later when we were talking about what happened to us. They said, well, this happened with the Oculus. So, it's one of those things where from a physiological and a psychological point of view, and even a physics point of view, I think um, there are instances where there's this type of energy that you can call ghost, and whether it's energy from a past human or whatever. I think all those things are possible and can be explained eventually through science, but anything supernatural is just something we haven't explained yet with science. But some of these things are going to be hard to explain, but they're still energy as a form of energy, and everything's made up of energy. And when you understand that, it makes sense that you can have these aberrations and things happen. Maybe the thing that survives death is that type of energy, not like a soul, but more like heart, something that doesn't really leave the area yet.
Got it. And so now you were also the one that experienced some shooting stars that also did a 90-degree turn, and then also some plasma, some purple plasma, some on the railroad tracks or something like that as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, a couple things come up. First of all, I'm curious to know if you had some past lives there in that area, or maybe even in that location that you were at. I'm not sure if that's something that you want to pursue, but if you do, maybe you might want to do a past life regression and see what comes up around that. I'm wondering if you maybe had something to do with something like that there. So and this leads us into the Socorro incident, where and you're right. There's always ongoing investigation of all this stuff, all this paranormal activity out there, and there's not enough tools or the right tools yet to be able to define different events, paranormal events, and whatever else. So if you guys want to kind of lay down the foundation about what this incident's all about, who's Lonnie, and what's going on with this guy. So go ahead, wherever you guys want to start, or whoever wants to start, go for it.
All right. It was April 24th, 1964, and it actually started closer to 5 o'clock. Most of the reports from the airport start from the point that Lonnie Zamora witnessed it. But this egg-shaped object was traveling low from the northwest towards the southeast.
Now, where are we talking about? What's the geographical location? And what time? PM or AM? 5 PM or 5 AM? What are we talking about?
5 p.m. Socorro, New Mexico.
Okay, Socorro, New Mexico. Got it. So go, and so this Lonnie guy, he's an officer, and what happens? Go ahead.
So calls were coming in to dispatch. Sergeant Martinez as early as 5 o'clock and as late as around 5:30. Police officer Lonnie Zamora was on random patrol when he noticed a known speeder that came by his car. So he began to follow this guy, and to his amazement, from his upper left corner of his eye, he sees this blue flame and this object coming across the sky. And he's not sure what it is. He thinks it could be a plane that's in trouble. So he lets the speeder go, and he turns off into the off-road in the desert to head towards the direction of this craft that appears to have gone down. And he's struggling to get his car across this desert. Ben and I rented a car, and Ben had a hard time, even today, with kind of traction of the cars half today, suspension, and nothing's really changed on the desert. We were beating the hell out of this car, and we felt like we were almost, following in his exact footprint, recreating this whole event. And at about, 400 feet from where he sees this object on the ground, he witnesses these two figures, and then he continues to gun his car towards where the object is actually situated.
And how far is the object from where he's at? Do you know?
Well, the first time that he stopped the car car. He was about 400, 450 feet away when he saw this thing on the ground. He thought it was an overturned vehicle of some kind. It was an egg-shaped craft with these landing struts. And when he saw there were these greasewood bushes, they were about 6 feet tall, and these figures were smaller than that. So they were like the size of 10-year-old children. And he still wasn't quite sure what he was seeing. So he got closer, and he parked his car about 50 feet away from the object. He got out of his car, and he proceeded to walk towards this object. He was afraid also that, there's a dynamite shack nearby, and he was, when this loud roar he was hearing when he saw the flame, he wasn't sure what was going on. He also thought the dynamite shack might explode. So, as he walked towards this object, he sees this symbol on the side of it. The creatures were already back inside the object at this point. He never got close. He never saw them up close. He only saw them at a distance. Because he also heard, like a tank hatch shutting as he was getting out of his car. Then this flame comes out of the bottom of this craft, this loud roar. He hits the ground in a prone position with his head turned to the right because he was trained in the Army. He doesn't know what's going on. He thinks it's going to explode. It rises about 20 feet, 30 feet into the air, and then everything goes completely silent, and this object proceeds to move towards the southeast direction against 40-mile-an-hour gusting wind. And when Ben and I were there, we verified that this gusting wind is consistent. I mean, we took some video, and it was so windy. I mean, you couldn't, it's hard to hear each other talk, unless you're really close to each other. So this object proceeds towards the perlite mill. It doesn't necessarily go over the dynamite shack. It's kind of at an angle. And it starts to increase speed. And just at that point, because also I'm kind of skipping around here, but he radioed in to Sergeant Chavez to call for backup. Sergeant Chavez shows up just in time to see this object going up into the sky at a sharp steep angle at supersonic speeds. He admits to that later on. He doesn't officially put that in the report. There's a lot of things that didn't make it into the official Air Force report, which is some of the stuff that we uncovered that we'll talk about in a little bit. But Lonnie Zamora was very shaky about it. And he was white as a ghost. And some of the things that you look at in a report like this, especially when it comes to a very credible witness like a police officer, and another police officer who knows him very well describes him as being shaken, white as a ghost. His hands were just shaking. He witnessed something very incredible. And Ben and I have taken flack for, the argument of the symbol that was seen on the side of the craft. And, at the end of the day, we say, what, it doesn't matter what the symbol was. The fact of the matter is there was a symbol. This was a craft. It doesn't conform to any conventional flying aircraft even today. We proved that in our presentation. Ben dug up some interesting video footage of a lunar-type lander with a center-fired propellant-type propulsion that couldn't make it more than 10 feet off the ground before it tipped over and blew up. And that was in 2010. So we found that interesting. This craft, lifted up without a problem, this loud roar, a blue flame that knifed a greasewood bush completely in half, a landing gear strut that broke a rock and left trace evidence behind of the metal from that landing strut, a credible police officer, multiple eyewitnesses from Larry Keys and Paul Crafter that were traveling, I believe, northbound and saw it exiting, to many other witnesses that heard the craft, to the witnesses that saw the craft and reported it before even Lonnie Zamora saw it and reported it back to dispatch. There's a culmination of all kinds of witnesses, trace evidence, physical evidence left behind, imprints left behind, and amazingly enough, sometime after this event occurred, we can talk about this later, but Ray Stanford was there with Dr. Hynek, and they photographed the dynamite shack, which 50 years later led to the discovery of a photograph that was kind of overlooked, that had what resembled exactly what landed on the ground.
Got it. So go ahead, Ben. What else do you got from this?
Well, what's interesting is this investigation, being white sands and some, the Trinity site and some important places out there in New Mexico was because they got there really quickly, there were several officers in the area from White Sands. Captain Holder was close by. He got there, I think, an hour and a half later. But there were there was a lot of interest in this case. There was Project Blue Book, headed by Henry Quintanilla. When he investigated it, he didn't believe in UFOs, so he figured this was a black project somewhere. So he got the authority from the people that were looking for answers, which included the White House, Chief of Staff, the FBI, and the CIA. Pretty heavy hitters that you would want to give your full attention to and access. So Hector got access to. He thought this was a vertical takeoff vehicle or some type of lunar device that was in a hangar over in White Sands, and he got top security clearance to go look at everything. And he didn't find anything. And Captain Holder was the White Sands uprange commander. He knew it was flying around that day, and there was nothing that was flying. And they checked with Bell and Hughes Aircraft and all the other capable companies that could have manufactured or been working on a black project or a vertical takeoff vehicle, or even the lunar lander. The lunar lander in 1964 did not have an internal engine, so it wasn't flying around anywhere. Plus, it couldn't fly 50 miles off course. Where this egg-shaped craft was, there was no device we made at that time that could even get that far and get back. Most of the vertical takeoff vehicles were could go up and then come back down, maybe fly around a little bit, but they couldn't go miles and miles. And plus, those are still propellant-type vehicles that would have blown the sand all over the place. So the interesting thing when we got a hold of these other files that were not included in Blue Book was they indicated a much more thorough investigation. It showed the frustration that they could not find any, and we couldn't find any manufacturer or company or Defense Department or by project place that was actually building or manufacturing anything that, first of all, would have been flying around at that time or that was capable of that. There was just nothing out there that even resembled an egg and has the flight characteristics that this thing did. So in the files we found, we think the symbol is an inverted D with 3 bars to it, but that's just from what we found in these Blue Book files. But Rob Mercer from Ohio State was the MUFON director. He had found the files and traced it back to Lieutenant Moreno, who was in one of the photographs of the Blue Book staff. So we know that these files came from a Blue Book personnel, and the official Blue Book file, as Teddy mentioned, doesn't have a lot of this information in it. Plus, the additional information we dug up also indicates there were 3 or 4 other craft of egg-shaped proportions spotted in this area in this time. There was even a reported landing of the same craft on the White Sands missile range. Also, some of the police officers had said they'd seen this craft before and after this event and just didn't report it because of the way Lonnie was treated. There's actually another landing in the Socorro near the canal that was mentioned. So there's a whole timeline where this thing was spotted by multiple witnesses, seen to make several landings, and then when Ray was asked about his photo of the dynamite shack, he blew that picture up and actually discovered that in the background of that picture, 120 days after the event, were several objects in the air, but the 2 most important ones were 2 egg-shaped craft, both tilted, which is interesting. They both tilted and are flying end-on, as if an egg could fly aerodynamically to begin with. But one of them is an egg tilted up, the other one is an egg tilted sideways, but you can see 3 of the 4 landing gear on that object in the photograph that's only 0.6 miles away from the camera. 50-millimeter lens is the Argus C3. So that kind of backed up the whole story. I mean, he took a photograph of this craft flying around 128 days later in the direction that it had disappeared, which we found is now top secret Army seized government land.
Now, so, okay, first of all, now how many investigations have you already done, both of you, prior to the beginning of this Socorro incident?
I think I've done 75.
100?
Yeah.
Around 100. You work from 75 to 100. And so, and then, no, and what attracted you to going back and reinvestigating this?
Well, running into Ray, Ray got a hold of us because of the Search for the Lost Socorro footage, which was an article we wrote that was on the cover of the MUFON Journal. And then Ray, called Jan Harzon at MUFON and said, they should be talking to me because I'm the expert. So we got a hold of Ray, and turns out he was the expert. He was the guy on site with Panic in 1964.
Wow.
And is the only guy still alive that was there investigating. So we got a hold of Ray, we got his book, The Course Off the Pentagon Pantry, which is still, an excellent book for the way that the case was investigated. The best book on the subject, and even Lonnie Zamora told his daughter that that was the only book that got the whole thing right about what occurred. So once Ray got involved, then that kind of set us in motion because he still has evidence. He still has the broken rock. He still has the photograph. He has the tape that we played a bit of Heineck admitting that the film that was taken right as they arrived on scene the day of was fogged by radiation, and the next day there was no fogging of film by radiation. So that indicated some type of exotic propulsion was used at the site, and the pictures were never returned to the person that took them. As you dig into this, we kept finding more and more evidence and more stories. And Ray had talked to a gentleman that said he knew that the guy that investigated the metal from the rock at Goddard Space Center had been kind of sent to the woodshed, he called it, after he had started to investigate this UFO material that he told Ray was had some very unusual properties, and then stopped communicating with him when they found out that, if you find metal from a supposed UFO landing and it has properties that are maybe off-world, this had a zinc aluminum type alloy that was combined in such a way that it didn't confirm to any of the charts, the metallurgist charts in the USA, Russia, or anywhere else in the world. So, but if you find some metal that's unusual, then all of a sudden, if you announce that or people know about it, it'll become a top secret project and it'll be taken from you and you can talk about it.
So now, go ahead.
That's what happened.
So now
they found the metal to be an unusual combination of normal metals, but combined in a way that I think Dr. Frankel at Goddard said would make an excellent coating of the strut because it's non-corrosive. It was a zinc iron alloy. Right, iron and zinc, I think. But, there's nothing like that. That was the only thing I can think of that's pretty much non-corrosive, but, this was what was left in the rock that was broken by one of the 4 landing struts on the vehicle. So you have so much evidence in this case, and then more and more sightings that correlate to this thing traveling down a parallel line to New Mexico and Arizona and all through that Four Corner area. And then other reports of it, and there's a correlation there. There's something that happened at that time, and it just happened to be seen quite clearly by Lonnie Zamora on April 24th that otherwise we probably wouldn't know about this case.
Now, well, a couple of things. First of all, Lonnie Zamora, if I remember, you said did not experience any missing time. Is that correct?
No, he
or do you know?
This whole thing happened in about 2 minutes. I mean, it was pretty quick. The events leading up to it and after it were longer, but Lonnie Zamora's experience was about 2, maybe 3 minutes long in total. But he was freaked out. He actually went to his minister or his religion and asked if he might be encountered the devil or something. He was might have had radiation poisoning at one time. Yeah, he worried that he had radiation poisoning because he ran into a gentleman in Orlando representing the case of the MUFON Symposium. This guy came up and said he'd run into Lonnie when he was down at White Sands, and Lonnie, when he found out he was a radiation specialist, he had told him the story because the guy had never heard of the score incident, and Lonnie was asking him if there was a possibility that he had radiation poisoning.
Got it.
So and this was years later, so it just confirms the fact that Lonnie still believed, the way he told it is probably exactly the way it happened, and because they didn't find a black project that corresponds to this craft, he's thinking, all right, if it was something else from another planet, then I might have had you need dose of radiation, now he's going to worry about the rest of his life probably.
Now, this guy that you're saying that you talked to, this is in Orlando, Florida, this year, where I met you guys at. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, can you explain, for those people that don't know anything about, any of this, can you explain what Project Blue Book is?
Yeah, you can have that one.
What's that?
You're the one that covered that anyway. Project Blue Book was at the end of many other projects that started with the Air Force after 1947 to try to explain aerial phenomenon, and so the Air Force had to come up with Universal Project Grudge, right? And then that developed into, help me out, Ben, I'm tired.
Project Sign.
Sign with the Grudge, and the Grudge with the Blue Book, and then by 1969, was it? They canceled Blue Book, and they had about, out of the 12,000 some odd cases that Project Blue Book had, they ended up with 701 that remained unsolved, unexplainable, and Socorro is one of those cases.
Got it. And so now, if you were to go back and just start clean, how would you invest? And if you had all the resources available to you that you want and need, how would you investigate this incident?
Oh, like if it happened today?
Yep.
Well, dude, that's interesting because, I was talking to Ben about this not too long ago in a certain capacity where I said, well, you know what, something amazing with Socorro would happen again today, and if it took place in New Mexico, we would never see it. I don't even think MUFON would ever see it. There's just too much awareness today, especially with the Air Force and military, special ops teams, if you will, that, they would know about such an event taking place in the sky or, landing, if you will. They would be on it so fast that MUFON wouldn't even get to it fast enough. And even if it got to MUFON, there is another team in MUFON, even higher than STAR team, which is the SAT team, and they would take it first. So it's like unless it lands in our backyard, like right here in Virginia, and we were the first ones notified about it, even if we had all the equipment in the world and the wish list, we wouldn't get to it unless it was right here on our back door.
Got it. So what more do you what's the new evidence that you found? Let's go that route so far since you started all this.
New cases like in Virginia?
Well, no. What's the new? What didn't you say earlier that you found some more evidence of and some more information concerning this Socorro incident? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, Ben. You got some more stuff from Rob Mercer that you want to mention?
Well, yeah, the document that I mentioned, that weren't part of the Blue Book files, was given to us by Rob Mercer, and they had a lot more information about the symbol, the confusion, but the biggest piece of new information was Ray's picture that he didn't discover until 2005, that he didn't tell us about until probably 2015. That was the biggest piece, was having a picture of the actual craft itself that showed up in that picture he took of the dynamite trap.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And one thing that we haven't tested yet that we're really hoping to do is that the rock that the landing strut broke, Ray still has in his possession, and there's a strange, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's like this green fused material or a mineral or something on the rock that we need to have tested to see if it's a result of extreme heat from either a subatomic particle or what. Yeah, it's something that hasn't been identified yet, and it could be additional evidence that's on the rock that would help and reinforce the fact that some other extremely hot source caused this green fusion to occur on the rock. Because Goddard scraped that rock clean before they gave it back to Ray, and they were concerned about the metal that was on it. Thank goodness they gave the rock back, because there was a point when Ray thought he wasn't going to get anything back.
Wow.
And he held on to it. He held on to it very closely, and he's careful who he shows it to, of course. And he has a special hidden place somewhere in his house for it. But before his testing is done on it, he's not going to let it out of his sight. So whoever does the testing will have to allow him to be present the whole time. He'll probably sleep on the floor if he has to.
So now you're saying, number one, that if this incident were to take place today, the government would go in and cover it up as much as possible right away. Is that what you're saying?
In my opinion, yes. And like I said, even if MUFON, was able to have privilege to it, it would go, to a higher level team than us. And if we had all the equipment necessary to tackle this case, if it was a very exact same situation, for example, I would prevent anybody from trampling the evidence. I would carefully remove the rock and all the metal because some metal was lost during transfer. And then if I did photograph the area, every single day or even 124 days afterwards, I wouldn't give any of it to the Air Force.
Huh.
And I certainly wouldn't share any of my photographs with the Air Force because Ted Jordan, who was taking the photographs initially, the Air Force said, "Can we borrow your negatives?" And they didn't get it back because
no way. The negatives? Are you kidding me? Oh my God! Are you kidding me? The negatives? Oh my! No, are you kidding? I used to be the official photographer for a major event, a WESAC festival out in Mount Shasta, California. I don't know if I told you this, but at the very last day that I photographed that event, every year I would go to the leadership retreat afterwards, and something told me, well, I need to go early, so I did. I took off early, and on the way there were some really wicked looking clouds around Mount Shasta. So literally, I pulled over on Interstate 5, and I took some photographs. And then when later on I went and had that all developed, and I showed the photographs to this friend of mine at the time, and he goes, "Wow, look at that! There's a you can barely see like you can see like only like half of the ship in the photograph. Literally, you can practically see the windows on top where they had the bay and whatever else, and I looked at my negatives, and the negatives for that picture, I think one or two pictures were gone. They never did appear. And so I had to make some new negatives out of that, and then eventually they disappeared, and now I still have pictures of it, but in fact, who was it, Ray Seacand or something like that, tested it, but of course you're not going to pick up any radiation or energy levels because the negative's gone, and the picture that I had on there that I showed them were from copies of copies, so of course you're not going to pick up anything from that. So anyhow, but it was like that, but when the negatives are gone, oh my God, that's huge. And I can't believe he would give them the negatives. Why didn't you just give them the copies of the picture? I don't understand.
I don't think he didn't have it developed at all yet. He was just out there photographing, and then the Air Force showed up, and they said, "We borrow those."
Oh man, you kidding me?
I don't know. Yeah, I remember 1964. Some copies to be made quickly.
Wow.
I guess, and also maybe, even though 1947 had already come and gone, it seemed like, the Roswell story kind of had dropped off the map for a while, and maybe people just weren't thinking about the cover-up. I mean, like they are today. They talk about Roswell today more than they ever have in the past. But now there's, everyone thinks, cover-ups are going to happen no matter what, which, they're probably right. For example, Ray, when he found that rock, he kind of hid it from Dr. Hynek. He didn't fuck Hynek at first, and Hynek didn't know that he, absconded with this evidence until later. And then we have Ray on film talking to Hynek, and Hynek is kind of brave people.
Well, hang on a second. You're cutting out, Tony. Hang on. So okay, so take a breath, and then I don't know what's going on with your phone, but you're cutting out. But go ahead.
Well, maybe my battery's dying. Let me switch over here. Hold on a second.
So now who's Heineck? Who's this guy?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, here, yeah, Dr. Hyman, he was the Air Force using the investigator for the Air Force for UFO stuff, and this was the case that, he famously was saying that UFOs are just swamp gas, and, a lot of people were really upset with that. And that this is the case that convinced him that this phenomenon is something completely different, and he reversed his opinion about ufology and aerial phenomena, because of the Socorro case. Later, after he was kind of berating Ray about hiding his evidence, he kind of came full circle and he said, we probably would have stolen it too, because the Air Force didn't take it, they got it from Goddard, so.
No kidding. Wow. So now, you mentioned a couple things. You want to test the rock, and what else? What would actually lay this case down to rest and saying, yeah, we've done everything that we can, and one way or another, something's proven or not proven. But what would lay this case down to rest? And let's just know.
I think that when Ray finally, he hasn't released the photograph because he wants to check the original negative and make another print.
Okay, you're cutting out again. Hang on a second. For some reason, I don't know what. I don't know if it's where you're standing or something, but something weird going on. Go ahead.
Then maybe you can pick up on it.
Yeah, Ray wants to make sure the picture doesn't have any artifacts on it. But, the thing is, any scratches or anything wouldn't have made two egg-shaped objects and one with landing gear. So I'm pretty sure we got a real picture of the event. There's no conclusion. Our conclusion was it was a non-human event. And the reason we come to that conclusion is because everybody on the planet investigated this, and as far as the American military and powers that be, could not find anyone that manufactured it. Still don't have that type of tech today. We don't have midgets piloting egg-shaped craft.
No.
We don't have a non-propellant blue flame that knifes to the ground and cuts off, and another engine kicks on that's completely silent and takes you to supersonic speed. So, it's just one of those things where we concluded it was probably a non-human event, but you can't say anything beyond that. A logical explanation is civilizations are visiting us from another, part of the universe, but it could also be that somebody's from another dimension or another parallel universe or a time traveler. So until there's actually definitive proofs where they tell you where they're from, you have no idea what the phenomena is. ET is a likely scenario if they've been coming here for thousands of years, which looks like something has. So ET is a logical choice because we're a fairly young sun in an outer arm of the galaxy. And there's 2 trillion galaxies in the universe now, so the odds are there's life developing on the planets and surviving themselves to travel. But the only conclusion is, like we started the whole thing with, was it was an event that wasn't human. Beyond that, it's a mystery, but I think you can solve it as not human because there's a lack of evidence to even indicate even the tiniest bit that it was either a hoax or that we have a company that made that material at the time or even today.
Right. So now, and before we go to the next step, the next section or question, I want. Do you guys have anything coming up anytime soon? Or you guys were on Hangar 1. You want to give a brief synopsis of that, and then what your role was with that, and then if any other stuff you have coming up that you have going on.
Well, we did film for NASA's Unexplained Files on the Discovery Channel. I think the new season starts in January. We have.
I think I'll show up at the end of February on that one.
Yeah, we're not sure yet. We don't have the date, so that's exciting. We're working on another show in the Vegas area, but we don't know if that's going to come to fruition yet. Hangar 1 wasn't renewed, but I think history is trying to work on some type of UFO show, but just not sure what's going on there. So we're constantly speaking. We've done a lot of radio shows. We're going to many conferences. We're going to be at John Ventry's Pennsylvania conference in 2017. And how do you think of anything else?
Off the top of my head.
Now, what was Hangar 1 about? What was that all about?
Those are stories about cases from, well, many of the cases from our MUFON database. There were some that they snuck in there that we were not aware of that were not from our database. The one that comes to mind is the episode about the guy that has a dream that he goes to Mars, and I was a little bit confused about that one. And then Ben said, "Hey man, I remember seeing a disclaimer at the bottom of that screen that said that not all cases are MUFON cases or whatever." But it talks about stories of like UFOs at war, for example, cops versus UFOs, and it takes like a subject, like a genre of UFO sightings, and the entire episode would go around stories related to that particular genre. So if it was about cops, every story was about cops related to UFOs. It was about Texas, it was about all the sightings, all the best sightings in Texas, things like that. And it's sad because I felt that that's a show that could have gone on for at least 10 years. There's just so many great stories, and this is a great job of telling those stories. And hopefully whatever they're coming up with next will continue that style.
And there was 2 seasons that were done of the Hangar 1, and you guys were in both of them or one of them?
Season 2.
Yeah, okay, so both of you were in season 2. So so now what I want to get into is what next? What goes on after this Socorro thing? Or is there other stuff that you got going on that you want to put out there that you're just dabbling with or something like that? Other places or wherever.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here in Virginia, especially in the Shenandoah Valley, and we're eager to get out there and investigate a couple of the interesting cases.
Okay, again, Tony, you're cutting out. I don't know why, but you're cutting out. But go ahead, Ben.
You can pick up on that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we've got some interesting things that happen in Shenandoah, up in the mountains and the valleys there. We want to, our main focus is to gather some of our own evidence so that, like we did in New Mexico, so that when we capture our own footage or data on anything we see, that we don't have to worry about whether it's a hoax or not, or CGI to begin with, if we film it ourselves. So that's the main thing, is to gather more data in the daytime instead of at night that a lot of people do. That's probably not the best time. The best time to look for these things is dusk and dawn, when the light is polarized and the sun's rising or setting. You get more data in the daytime. At night, you can be fooled by just about anything. So we want to get our own data, come up with some analysis. We still look at some older cases. We've got a pretty good analysis of the famous Trent photos from the Kenville. It was Oregon back in '54 that shows that was probably real craft. So that's a whole other thing we can do a presentation on or put up some documents. We do have some of that on our www.mufonpa.com, where I have there's some analysis of that photo that shows them up and downdraft beneath the craft, which is not something a hoaxer would think of in 1954. So that's a fascinating thing, is to apply new technology to older cases with older evidence, because pictures from the 50s and before, and even footage from that time, is usually real footage. It just hasn't been analyzed with digital equipment and some of the newer technologies that can break down what's really going on. So we're looking for our own cases, looking at some past cases. We're trying to get some money together to buy newer equipment and expand our research. And we're definitely out on going to a lot of conferences and speaking, trying to make connections to put things together so we can have even bigger investigations and harder stuff that's going on out there, because we're spread too thin right now, it's all out of pocket.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah, it is. It's just, you don't get into the business to become rich and famous because you'll be born unknown at this time.
Right. No, I brought in Chase Cloaking. You know who she is?
Yeah, is it Cox? Cox
Yeah, I don't know how to say her last name, but anyhow, and she was telling me the same thing that everything's all out of pocket, and all the stuff that she's doing is all out of pocket. But she's coming up, with some stuff that I think is interesting to the public and whatever else. So I don't think it's without.
She's still working on the Star Child film also.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know about that one. So now, we got about 8 minutes left. Is there anything that you want to put out there that we haven't talked about yet? That you want to, just put up there?
Ben, anything?
Mm-hmm. Ben, are you there?
Ben lost Ben. I don't know what happened to him. I was just gonna say that a lot of the stuff we've been getting in Virginia is like black triangles. I remember one time you sent me a text, Andrew, when you said you saw some black triangles that was crossing over your part.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later. But and that was kind of interesting. It was kind of weird. Some of the stuff that I was coming up with. Some of the stuff that was showing up. So that was kind of weird. Ben, are you still there?
I was answering your question, and then you guys started talking, and I looked down and had my mute button on.
You're as bad as me. I hear you. So,
pretty bad about that. I realize it.
Yeah, we're being invaded by UFOs. They're cutting us off. What the heck is going on here now? So, go ahead.
We need more investigators. I encourage people to become investigators and help out and, report things you see. But 97% of the stuff we get is natural phenomena or man-made stuff. So it's good to know the difference. It's good for people to be educated. We need more investigators in Virginia, so if anybody's listening, give us power.
Yeah, because MUFON has a whole program where you can literally be certified to be an investigator. They have a book that you can buy. I think it's like $100 or something like that, and then all the information's there, so you can take the test, and then you go online to take the test, and then you do the actual physical thing. And I know that I was in Vegas. They had the symposium when actually Jan Harzan took over back in what was 2012, 2013, the MUFON symposium in Vegas. He took over then, and then I did the physical part of the investigation, or being certified to be an investigator part of it there. And so I just need to take the test and look from there. But anyhow, that was interesting in how as well. But and you can just go to MUFON. Is that information on your guys' website as well? About becoming an investigator and all that, or you have to go to the main MUFON website?
Yeah, you want to go to the main MUFON.com.
Yeah, MUFON.com or .org?
.com.
Okay. So anything else you guys want to cover, or whatever you guys want to do, it's up to you. Got about 5 minutes.
Ben, turn off your mute button.
Ben, are you still there?
Go ahead, Daddy.
All right.
I was just mentioning some of the black triangle stuff. I was going to say that we think it's possibly military tech because a lot of the black triangles. I mean, we've got some pretty good video footage and some photographs, and then you had a really good case that had a pretty decent footage. I don't think that was fake. I don't know, but they're not big enough around here, in my opinion, to be what we're seeing in Arizona.
Yeah.
There's a new one out too that looks like it has a red light in the middle and the white lights on its 3 points. So we think one of the really good triangle videos is actually on these new drones. And of all the places in the world Guess where they're flown out of? They're right out here in Virginia.
Oh, really? Yeah. And you're saying they're drones?
Baltimore and
Huh. Yeah, because I brought in David Marler last weekend talking about triangles, and so that was interesting.
oh yeah, Dave Marley. Yeah, he's really big on the triangle. He's a
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah, yeah. And it was amazing that even though he still never actually had an experience actually seeing UFOs or aliens, he still, because he grew up with it in his community and people around him experienced them, but he didn't personally experience that. Yeah, that's so. But he still was very, very passionate about it.
We live a hop, skip, and a jump from DC, and Wilbur Allen, he videotapes and photographs strange things every night over the White House, and we've had reports even right here where I live in northern Springfield of strange things, but I personally have not seen something so anomalous that I felt like saying that it was something extraterrestrial. I know it's out there. I just haven't seen it myself. And I kind of feel like, hey, we deserve to see something. We're right by DC.
All right. So, okay, Ben, you're back. So, we can call it a night and leave it at that. But again, if people want to get a hold of you guys about more information, they can go to MUFONVA.com. If they want to talk to you about, if they want to talk to you about some personal cases as well, they can approach you as well directly. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a messaging. You're also on Facebook. You can just look us up on Facebook.
Yeah.
We also have a messaging capability right on our website. People want to send us a message.
If they want, contact that. So I want to thank you guys for coming on and taking. I know you guys are. I know for sure it's past your bedtime now, but that's the point. But anyhow, I want to thank you guys for coming on and don't hang up yet. I'm just going to hang up these recordings and just a little post reflect. But I want to thank all of you for stopping by. Have a God-guided week. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Aloha.
Your contact for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, that is a wrap. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So were you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I just noticed that my cell signal, I've been out in my car the whole time to make sure that I had good signal.
Yeah.
And for some reason, now it just went to 3 bars. It was at 2 just a minute ago, it was at 1 when you were telling me you couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
So for some reason, my cell signal was just dropping out.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff. No, I wanted to tell you guys earlier, and I forgot. I found out, I went to the doctor, and they told me I had cataract. So literally a few weeks ago, I had a cataract operation. In fact, that's why I'm here, because I had it here in Tucson, and tomorrow I'm going to go back do a follow up, and then they're going to see about doing my other eye. And my good eye, I looked through that. I just couldn't believe how poor my eyesight was, and that's where I was seeing from all that stuff. But even so, it was kind of weird because I would look at the stars. And sometimes there would be like a formation of stars, and then other times the formations would change or shift or something like that. I think there was still maybe something going on there, but I wasn't seeing what my eyes were seeing. My eyes were seeing something different. That's anyhow. But no, I have. I mean, even in any given clear night, we can go. And that's what I was gonna say earlier. You guys should come out here and live out here for a few weeks, a few months, and you'll definitely get an eyeful of UFOs out of it. I mean, when I first got here, people they pointed them out, and I did. I could see at least one or two ships out there in any given night, pretty much. And then I told you about I stayed with a friend, or I was out having dinner with a friend out in California. We pulled out the telescope, and sure enough, there was a cigar-shaped ship shifting back and forth from horizontal to vertical. So that was a trip. So,
Good luck with the surgery.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I've already had my left eye done, and then we're going to talk about doing my right eye tomorrow. So I'll see how that goes. But anyhow, my eyesight will be better, and it won't be, my eyes won't be playing tricks on me unless something definitely weird happens. But that's just that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I know you guys are tired, and so thank you. I'll be sending the links up as soon as I get this up on YouTube. I'll send you guys the links, and then you guys can check it out and see what's there.
Appreciate it, man. Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Have a good night. Aloha.
All right. All right. Thank you. Aloha. Bye.